Welcome back to the Behind the Roast podcast. We are here live today in Ames, Iowa with Windmill Coffee Roasters. It's been a phenomenal day, incredible company, incredible coffee as well. And we are here with head roaster Robb.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going, Robb?
It's good.
Awesome. Owner Andrew is here as well, but we're going to leave this up to Robb.
He's chained to the roaster.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. He's making sure the coffee gets out the door. And actually, it's past lunch now, so we have switched from coffee to beer. Got a little PBR going. But yeah, let's get into it. Robb, tell us how Windmill started. What's the evolution of the business?
Yeah, so Andrew's family started with a coffee cart at the mall in North Ames in the 90s. And that involved into roasting for themselves, and that led them to see that there was a desire or a need for locally roasted coffee in the Ames community. So they started wholesaling for themselves and also roasting, of course, for their own cafes. About 3 years ago, the family sat down, and Andrew and his wife, and they discussed, how a wholesale coffee company would work best and what that would look like and how they could best serve their customers and Burgies, and that looked like a separate entity. And so Windmill was born out of a desire to build wholesale, to be able to support local businesses, local restaurants, local coffee shops, be a resource for coffee drinkers in Ames and beyond.
Yeah, awesome. I think one of the coolest things about your guys' story is, Andrew Kunde, he was fully immersed in the coffee world probably since he was a really young kid,
Yeah.
His dad and family owning Burgies, growing up in it, learning the whole business, and then taking his experience there and matching it with this guy who's got experience from, where some people would consider a very big capital city of coffee, LA, with lots of different specialty roasters, where now you come back and bring that experience and kind of pair it with his, to now roasting some really awesome coffee. So what's the dynamic there? How does that kind of work with you two?
I mean, honestly, luckily enough for us and for me, especially Andrew and I really hit it off. We, a lot of times it's, the coffee and the day-to-day, they take care of themselves a little bit. But for us, it's like, we have similar tastes in music. We both have young families. Our families are important to us. Our time is valuable to us, not only at work, but our time away from work. So, we really just have, a connection outside of the coffee. And then, my role at Augie's was similar, where I wasn't in an ownership role, but I was definitely in a decision-making role. And so having that experience and having discussions with Andrew has kind of led us to, not get in each other's way, make sure we both have the same goals in mind. But Andrew's busy. Andrew's, his family has several businesses, so he also is involved there. So, Windmill is his priority, and it's my priority, and between the two things, we, make sure we get everything done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So I know, we're in the Midwest here, pretty much the heart of the Midwest, which I'm sure has something to do with it, but where did the inspiration for the Windmill name come from?
Yeah, haven't talked to Andrew about it. I think we wanted to, or they wanted to have, a name and a symbol and an idea that definitely associated with Iowa and with the Midwest, but maybe a more progressive or youthful side. And windmills are that. Windmill and wind power is, moving across the country, and as a renewable resource, it's definitely something that's cutting edge and will be with us, we think, for a long time. And it still harkens back to Iowa. A lot of, windmill manufacturing occurs here, training for the workers. So, we think that, windmill is, as iconic and will become as iconic as, that Midwestern barn that you have in your mind. Aside from that, windmills really harken to like a renewable sense of energy and, a connection to each other and the community. And we really want to do that too. We really want to foster new energy and new community, and, Windmill kind of ties that together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We are here with Windmill Coffee Roasters. Robb, tell us where we're at and talk to us a little bit about the community where you guys are located.
Yeah, so we're on the western edge of Ames. It's technically Lincoln Way, which, cuts right through Ames. So Burgies, they have 3 cafes around town, being those are our sister companies. Those are really, outlets to the community for us. Aside from that, we roast and, store and some coffee for a couple of community groups, El Zapote being one, and then the Uganda Building Project. So we have those connections with our community. Aside from that, we really want to be and strive to be a resource for the greater coffee community, whether that's machine repair or helping somebody find a machine, whether new or used, or providing training. Any of those, anything that a coffee person or a coffee company could need is something that we want to be able to provide. We have a new space, and when we got ready to look for new spaces, that was definitely, foremost in our search, was what space is best suited for what we want to accomplish. Aside from just roasting coffee, like, let's have a space where, we can sit and lounge and talk. Let's have a space where we can train and cup, and let's have a space where, we can store products and get them, out of our hair and out of the way, and have them tucked away and not have to worry about them. And I'm super excited to say that I think we found our great location for that. So
yeah,
we can't wait to show it to everyone.
Get people up here.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, make the trip to Ames.
When did you guys move here again?
I think we've been here just under a month, so 3 weeks.
Okay.
So it's pretty fresh.
Space is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
We've enjoyed it.
Along.
Yeah,
we have other plans and bigger goals and stuff now, but it's it's rocking. It's fully functional, and by the time we'd love to see like farmers come and give talks and open it up to the community, and have people be able to come and learn about seed to cup and what the realities of the coffee farmer is, and like, hey, why does a windmill coffee cost $16 but Folgers cost $4, and really break it down for people in a way that's fun and educational and real. And like having direct connections with farmers is going to allow us the opportunity to present that kind of information in maybe a new way, or in a way that people haven't thought of before.
I think that's something that's like really cool about you guys is, we're in Iowa here. There's not a huge specialty coffee community for drinking wise. There's some fairly good roasters out there, but when it comes to actually fully understanding what goes behind the scenes of specialty coffee and what goes into it, Iowa's a very conservative state. People don't like to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
So when they see coffee that costs $16 for probably one of the cheapest bags, they're thinking, well, what the heck is this?
Well, that's not just the Midwest. Like, having come from California, like that's real talk for everybody. Coffee and specialty coffee, that's like, it's a splurge item. If you're spending $17, $18, $19, that's not, you're not doing that just to stock your cupboard. You're doing that because like that's something you're passionate about. That's something you care about. That's like a little thing you're carving out for yourself, whether that's craft beer or craft cheese. I've spent way too much money on cheese, but it's great and it's worth it when you have it. And I think coffee is that. And I don't think that necessarily is tied to Iowa being a conservative place. I do think it's expensive, but there's a reason. And the reason is that for the most part, historically, the coffee growers, producers, pickers have been so underpaid that a roaster like us, we're really trying to support them as more than we can, as much as we can. People talk about fair trade, etc. We haven't bought a coffee. All fair trade does is guarantee a bottom price, and we haven't paid anything near that bottom price. We've been above it my entire time here at Windmill, and that's true for many specialty coffee roasters. Like, the reason you don't see fair trade on their bag is because they're paying above fair trade.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is build relationships with producers and exporters and importers, and find relationships that we can build over time, and say, the El Salvador that we're going to bring in with you guys, we're going to buy her coffee every year if we can.
Right.
If the demand's, not even if the demand's there, if she has product that we can purchase from her, we're going to buy it.
Right.
And those are the type of relationships we're trying to buy. The other thing that I think is interesting in the Midwest is that Iowans know the plight of the farmer. They know what the realities of an agricultural product is. Up years, down years, pestilence, drought. They know. And so for us, for Windmill, one thing that I would like to try to do or figure out how to do is, how do you draw those connections? How do you dot those points where, hey, gentlemen living out on Highway 30, your family's had that farm for 3 generations.
Right.
You're just barely getting by. I know a guy in El Salvador that's got the same thing going on.
Right.
He's 3 generations in. You have 135 acres and he's got 2.
Yeah.
The product's different. The lifestyle is different. I can't say that it's not. But the realities of the business and what a good year looks like and what a bad year looks like are so close together.
And at the end of the day, I think what some people, don't understand is at the core, coffee's an agricultural product.
Absolutely. There's good years, there's bad years.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great connection you just made there because, you are surrounded by just farmland.
Yeah.
All over the place. And at the end of the day, coffee, there's a lot of connections there, a lot of similarities that I think if more people did understand, which bringing that back now to the place and what you guys are trying to do at this place, I think that's an awesome kind of mission that you guys have and something that you guys want to do because while this isn't like a massive warehouse that can house thousands of people, like you can totally do that and just fully immerse people in that experience. And I think that would do so much.
I think like groups of 20 or 30 people or, ideally, Andrew and I have talked about like, getting in contact with Iowa State and trying to bring in a farmer that we work with and connecting them with Iowa State and being able to have them see 1,000 people at an auditorium and give a real talk about, seed to cup and what the realities look like and, what's the C market and why does this coffee cost X and this coffee cost Y? I mean, I can tell you all day, but like, we're not trying to market like how ethical we are. I'm not trying to signal my virtue or anything either. What we're trying to do is really support farmers. And to do that, we need to tell the story so why our coffee costs a little bit more.
Right.
I mean, quality is involved, flavor is involved, but also, we want to support those farmers.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say that, Andrew also wants to take care of his employees.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's why I'm here. And that's why a guy from California and could come back here and buy a house and have a family and, not feel pressed. Like we also, as a coffee community, need to take care of our employees.
Yeah.
And that is also something that for far too long has been sidelined.
Right. I think it's cool how confident you are about that. It's not. I don't think you are trying to praise yourselves by any means, but the fact that you can even speak to that and speak to it so well, that says a lot about the kind of business that you guys are. Which, that's awesome. We're appreciative of that, and we know there's plenty of other people out there who are as well. So, fantastic. So, something I always like to ask people is, what is your favorite way to drink Windmill coffee?
Man, by the gallon.
Yeah, right.
I have little kids, so I drink a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of coffee anyway.
You got them started early?
I guess, as like a coffee roaster or insider or whatever you want to say, like, I love cupping coffee, which is, how we taste it, how we check for quality, how we guarantee that we're being consistent. And, that's probably my favorite way to drink our coffee is to be able to drink a small amount of 10 at a time. Kind of like, it's like a sample or if you go to your restaurant, you get a little bit of everything, or it's like tapas. Like, that's probably my favorite way.
Yeah, right.
I brew Chemexes at home. I make flash iced coffee, and I make just regular hot coffee with my Chemex. My wife, we've been married now for 8 years, I think. Well, I hope so. She's pretty into coffee too, so she's got her routine, and she's as ready to brew a Chemex in the morning as I am. So,
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's, ultimately, specialty coffee could be a pretty daunting thing to get into if you don't know it. So, let's say someone who just uses the, Mick Cafe auto drip brewer, what's the next step for them if they want to, up their coffee game?
Yeah, so I would say even if you were like on a pod machine or something, is you can buy the refillable pods and then either order your coffee ground or go to a cafe and have it ground after you purchase it, or buy your own grinder and then refill those pods.
Right.
Those pods, the Keurig system has its benefits. I can't say that it doesn't. It's quick, it's easy.
Convenient.
Very convenient, but it does create a tremendous amount of waste. And by using a reusable pod, you get two different things. You get A, you're not impacting the environment as much as you could have been, and B, you're getting to try fresh coffee, local coffee, switch it up. You're not married to whatever Keurig is putting in a pot.
Right.
So that would be my example, and even for family members and close friends that can't live without their Keurig, that's what I'll either get it for them a gift or suggest they purchase one of the reusable pods because super easy to use, and at the end of the day, it's fresher coffee. So
right. We kind of had this thing running around the office last couple of weeks is hashtag don't drink K-cups. So if you're gonna use a Keurig, make sure you get your reusable pod.
Yeah.
Right. We are here with head roaster Robb at Windmill Coffee Roasters in Ames, Iowa. I want to take it back a little bit, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that connection with the farmers, not only agricultural farmers here in the Midwest, but relating that to the coffee farmers wherever they're located. Where do you start when it comes to educating people and trying to make that an easy understanding? Because at the end of the day, too many people see coffee as just something that gets them going.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it, and it's beautiful.
I think, for the most part, having been in the industry for a while now and having worked in cafes for a really long time, I think the best education can happen in the cafe, in the coffee shop. Have a knowledgeable barista, find a customer that wants to learn. That's the other piece of the puzzle. Like, I think that specialty coffee also is at risk of, over projecting our importance or overselling how complicated and diverse and beautiful it all is. Some people just want coffee.
Yeah.
And so I think it's finding a balance between providing the best quality product to anybody that wants it, and then also being ready and able to speak to education for a customer that wants it.
Right.
So there's a fine line there. Sometimes if I go into a cafe and they don't know who I am, I've been personally turned off by my experience in some specialty cafes.
Right.
But in the same breath, again, going into a cafe where they don't know me, I've had wonderful experiences with super passionate baristas that really just want to share the coffee and share the journey and share the story. So I think, being excited and passionate and, as always in business, I think being responsive to telephone calls and emails and text messages and being ready to go when somebody asks those questions.
That gets me pumped up when you say that, because that's pretty much why Joe and I started doing this. We just love the experience that coffee brings, and we can appreciate that, and we want to share that with everybody. We're not just here to serve coffee snobs, which is great if we do at the end of the day,
Sure,
but
you got to be ready for everybody, though.
We just love coffee. We want people who love coffee to join in, and we want to be part of the educational aspect to it, and kind of bring in that full immersive experience. And that's a lot of the reason why we choose and we love to tell the story, because that's a great way to be an entry into this whole world, is the story. Let's not dive deep into the tasting notes. Let's not dive deep into all the nitty-gritty details that you don't necessarily understand and may not even want to know.
Yeah.
Let's start somewhere and then go from there. So that's awesome. That gets me fired up. Alrighty, so this is the one thing I ask every coffee roaster before we end. Starting it actually with you today. Tell us one interesting thing about coffee nobody else knows.
Ooh. So, man, I have a lot of weird information kicking around in my head. And
say one thing.
Okay, one thing.
You can say as many as you want, but if there was one thing.
No, I have useless facts for sure. So one thing that I've always thought is interesting is in regards to caffeine content and why the caffeine's there. And most of what I've read, and so often I read things and I find out I'm wrong, but this is what I know to be true today, is that caffeine is in place as a natural bug repellent. It's to keep insects off of the trees, off of the cherries. Caffeine is the bitter component in coffee. It also will wreck your stomach, as many people will know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So bugs, animals, etc., don't particularly enjoy ingesting things high in caffeine. Just naturally, that's coffee made itself, caffeinated. Other things have caffeine in it too, in smaller amounts.
Right.
Apples, bananas, lots of stuff.
Right.
And it just is occur. Where this gets interesting to me is at higher elevations, you have less insects. So the plants produce less caffeine. Again, caffeine is not the most enjoyable flavor component in a cup of coffee.
Right.
Although we all love it. So when we look for higher elevation coffees, and often when you're talking to a coffee person, they're telling you about elevation and how important it is. It's really speaking to there's less bugs.
What?
It also extends the growing cycle, and it's cooler for longer amounts of time at elevation. But there's also less bugs the higher you go. So,
would you go for something like that? Would you go a decaf? Would you want to go high elevation?
Well, they decaffeinate coffee, so I don't know if you could find a way to It would take generations, right?
Yeah.
It would take generations and generations and generations to go to a place with naturally occurring non-caffeinated coffee. No, but I do think that when you're at sea level, there's a lot more bugs and insects and stuff. And those Robusta coffees that are grown at lower elevations have a way more caffeine content, but they're notoriously And things are changing. People are finding new varietals and stuff, and the flavors are improving. But historically, those have been the really cheap coffees and things roasters will mix in with more premium coffees, A, as a filler, and B, to up the caffeine content. So, I mean, it's just interesting to think about.
I'm mind blown.
Again, I'm prefacing this with like, man, I'll probably read an article next week that tells me I'm totally wrong. Because in 20 years in coffee, every couple years, everything that I think is gospel has been flipped on its head.
Yeah, right.
So, but
No,
no,
that's
caffeine.
Yeah, wow.
That's awesome. I'm going to use that one a lot now.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Robb, we appreciate your time and letting us come in here today and break into the facility. Share your story, your and Andrew's story here with Windmill and kind of where you guys are at and where you were 20 years ago when you were just getting into it. I think it's awesome. I think people will be super excited to hear it, and at the end, enjoy the coffee you have to offer. So just before we head out here, what is the coffee that people are going to be trying?
We're going to try Annie Ruth's Loma La Gloria from El Salvador. We purchased 2 lots of her coffee this year, a natural and a honey, and exclusively we'll be blending those 2 at 50-50 for locally. So you guys will get a blend of both of her coffees. We'll roast both of them to their peak awesomeness, blend them together, and then share them with you all. And we're super excited about it. I think it's going to be delicious.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so are we.
Fantastic. All righty. Thanks, Robb. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Locally.